I have had my first 5-star read of 2025. It is January 10th, and I have already read 6 books this year, if you can believe it. My goal is to read 150 this year, so that averages about 12 to 13 a month. So I really wanted to start the year off strong and probably get around 15 books read in the month of January. I've always rather be ahead than falling behind in my goal. So I'm 6 books in, but I got my first 5-star read. And I've read a lot of books. Last year I read 131. So I'm pretty tough when it comes to giving 5 stars out. But without further ado, that 5-star belongs to Lady Tan's Circle of Women. This book is by Lisa C., who's written so many amazing books, but this one just came out within the past year, I believe. In her acknowledgments and post-book notes, she talks about how she wrote this during times of COVID and things like that. So it is a fairly new book, but it is so phenomenal. The story starts in the late 1400s in China. So totally different time period from what we're living in now. I personally live in America, so totally different culture than I currently live in now. And it follows basically the entire life of a girl, Tan Yongxi. It starts when she's 8 years old and living in her parents' home. And then it goes through her whole life at that point in time and at that place in history. Women usually, but girls normally get married off, between 15 and 18. So it starts when she's 8 and kind of finding her match, going off at 15 to get married, moving into her husband's home, all those kind of things. But then there's a side plot where her grandparents, her dad's parents, are doctors. And not only is her grandfather a doctor, but her grandmother is also a doctor, which obviously women working during that time is pretty rare. But then what's even more rare is Yongxing is from a family and marries into a family that are very wealthy, well-respected scholars. So women in that standing definitely do not work. So the fact that her grandmother was a doctor was this amazing, exciting opportunity for Yongxing to follow. And her dad is a very well-respected scholar, one of the highest ones. He's met the emperor. And so for most of her childhood, she lives with her paternal grandparents. So she gets the opportunity to follow her grandma around when she's going to treat these women, because that's what the grandma does. She treats cases of women because in that time, male doctors could not physically see women when he was treating them. So the women would be in their bed and then there'd be a curtain there, and then the male doctors would have to sit on the other side of the curtain. And the male doctors couldn't even talk to the female patients. There would have to be a go in between person. So the male doctor would have to, tell the husband the question, how has her energy been? And then the husband would have to go behind the curtain and then ask the women. So having a female doctor was this huge, amazing thing, because all of these women could actually be seen, physically actually seen by a doctor. And then the grandma also worked with midwives to, help deliver babies and different things like that. So Yongxin is kind of following in her grandma's footsteps throughout her entire childhood. And then the midwife that works with the grandma has a daughter who is the exact same age as her. Her name is Mei Ling, And obviously Yangxing and Mei Ling become friends. And it's kind of like taboo because Mei Ling is like the daughter of like a working woman, where Yangxing is like this wealthy kind of like aristocrat. So they probably shouldn't really be interacting, but her grandmother and Mei Ling's mom like really support it and can see like that they work really well together and are going to be great friends. So it basically follows Yangxing's life from 8 and then until, honestly, when the end of her life is kind of like an epilogue. But her life is so interesting because obviously it's like a different culture from me, a very different time period from all of us. And Yangxing really takes into the way of her grandmother, and she, when she's married, wants to become a female doctor as well. And obviously gets like a lot of pushback from her mother-in-law because she's like, you're this rich woman living in this like huge, like almost like a palace, honestly. You should not be working, like you should just be like having babies and like providing me a son. And so it goes into all this detail about like, you know, all of everything that goes on in her life. And like like you really grow attached to the characters. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I love like not even just the main character, but like her friends and everything like that. And then the book is called Lady Chan's Circle of Women because she really does build like the circle of women around her that supports her. It's like a book of beautiful, beautiful, complex female friendships. And the characters, Yangxing, Meilin, her daughters, her maids, you know, all the women that live in like their palace kind of, they're all so complex and they like really truly feel like real women that you could meet in your lifetime. They're not like, you know, like fake female main characters like, oh, she's so petite but so strong. Like it's not that. Like they're beautifully written, wonderful women characters, and it's honestly just phenomenal. So the characters are amazing. There's so many like plot twists that I was not expecting at all. I was like, oh, this is just gonna be like a really well written historical fiction book, which it was, but there were like so many plot twists that I was like, wait, what? Oh my God, I was not expecting that. Like it was crazy. My goal, like I said, was to read 150 books this year, but I wanted at least 50 of them to be written by and starring people of color or people that identified with the LGBTQIA plus. So I really wanted to diversify my reading this year. And obviously this book just proves why, because there are so many beautifully written books out there that if you're only reading white authors, you are not even seeing. Highly recommend this book. 5 stars. Put it on your TBR right now.